We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me, I recognize my face. Say you don't care who goes to that kind of place. Knee deep in the hoopla, sinking in your fight. Too many runaways, eating up the night. Marconi plays the mamba. Listen to the radio. Don't you remember? We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Someone always playing corporation games. Who cares? They're always changing corporation names. We just want to dance here. Someone stole the stage. They call us irresponsible. Write us off the page. Marconi plays the mama. Listen to the radio. Don't you remember? We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. It's just another Sunday in a tired old street. Police have got the chokehold. But we just lost the beat. Who counts the money underneath the bar? Who rides the wrecking ball into our guitar?
We always got to have some technical difficulties. At least it was on a stream by myself. Done a lot of collabs this week, and all those seem to go well. So, just a little bit of technical difficulties is all. We should be good now, I think. I think we're good. But, yeah, we're going to be talking A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. For you guys that don't know, it got pushed back basically to 2026. We don't know how far into 2026. Could be very beginning of the year. Could be the middle of the year. If it gets any further, that's when we start talking about it. Audio is low. I don't know if I really want to raise it any further because I can kind of see it's already peaking in the yellow. So I feel like it's probably fine. Hold on. Hello, hello. I turned it up a little bit. Is that better? There you go. I turned it up a bit. That should hopefully make it a bit better. It's fine on my end. Okay, well, I boosted it up a little bit anyway. If it's too high, let me know. But yeah, so A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms gets pushed back to me, which is not exactly surprising, given the fact that we've had no information on A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, no teaser trailers, nothing. It has been radio silent on A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms outside of George R. R. Martin himself saying, like, He's seen the episodes to some extent, and it seemed like they were basically close to being finished, and then he really liked them, right? Like all the details we were getting about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms came from George himself. So it doesn't surprise me in terms of there's been no marketing around the show, but I didn't expect it to get pushed back to next year. I thought that maybe it could be much later in the year. That's not the case. So I really am struggling to understand why it got pushed back. Because if you think about it just from the technical side of things, right? The filming's been done for a while. So if it has something to do with filming, it's reshoots, and reshoots usually are not a good sign. Look at Marvel, for instance. There's been a lot of Marvel and then Sony projects with a lot of reshoots, and that has really hampered those films, stuff like that. So like reshoots are not a bad thing necessarily, especially if you're trying to fix something, but it can be a warning sign of maybe some things to come. So that's weird right off the bat. Like the filming should already be done. All that's done. We should be in post-production at this point. If George R. R. Martin is saying he's seen a good amount of footage, now again, we don't know if he was shown the entirety of the episodes. He saw portions of the episodes, maybe parts that George wanted to see. We just don't know. But the feeling that George gave, and George sometimes misleads us, is that the episodes were pretty close to completion. And if you think about post-production, there shouldn't be a ton they have to do in post-production. Now, who knows how big the size of the crew is, right? Like how many people do they have dedicated to the post-production side of the episodes? Who knows? But if you're looking at from House of the Dragon to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it's not even close. Like there's no dragons. There's really not much you'd have to do any type of CGI on at all. Like it's pretty straightforward. So the post-production side of it is baffling if they're falling this far behind. So I feel like that just can't be the answer. Like, I'm just looking at this and I'm going, there's no way they're this far behind if they're saying filming was already done and we're in post-production now. It just doesn't make sense. So that aspect of it just doesn't make sense. So if we're looking at it from the other side of it, what is outside of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms that could influence why it gets pushed back? Could be that maybe HBO has other shows that they want to put out before A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is getting pushed back to fill some content. It's maybe a plausible explanation, but why wouldn't we have A Night of the Seven Kingdoms maybe just pushed back a couple months? Why is it getting pushed back to next year, right? Because the estimated when we were going to get it was probably around September, October area. It's very weird that it would get pushed back almost half a year if you're looking at it from being at September. If we're assuming it's a January, February release, which is also a weird time, I feel like, for the show to debut. I think it's even more plausible it gets pushed back to early April, maybe, in the springtime. So, yeah. So let me pause there. I'm going to respond to chat, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that is outside of that. Also, I hope, the people liked the 80s feel. That is one of my favorite songs of the 80s. I will say GTA 5 kind of got me hooked on that song. It's a perfect song for GTA 5 when you're in the car. But yeah, I have a lot of songs. I think GTA 5 has some of the best music in terms of radio music, but that's besides the point. I do really like that song. Madness, and stupidity, and a lot of incompetence. HBO in a nutshell. Yeah, I'm going to touch on this after I catch up with chat, but I think this has more to do with HBO than it does, it seems like, with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms specifically. HBO should just sell the rights for Song of Ice and Fire to someone else. They won't do that because of money. Also, hi guys. Hi to the people I saw in Quinn's stream yesterday. That was pretty cool seeing some of you guys. Also, I think there's also some very optimistic thinking that now we're going to have a Song of Ice and Fire year, that we're going to have a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon Season 3, and Winds. I'll tell you right now, it's not happening. But, you can always hope. They said winter 2026, so I'm thinking January or February. Yeah, I think that's good thinking. I could see March, just because I feel like January and February are not good months for a brand new television show. So maybe I would probably predict March. It finished filming in September of last year. They are in one location, little to no CGI. Agreed. Mats, it just doesn't make sense from a technical level that it has something to do with the show being behind track. Nothing seems to go that route. Hi, Cannibal. Hi, Dakota. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm just seeing some trolling going on in the chat. I'm gonna avoid that. Only CGI I can think of is the dream that yeah. So flashbacks. Maybe if we get flashbacks of the first Blackfire Rebellion or things of that nature, or dream states. Won't say too much on that to spoil, but yes, that is definitely where we could see CGI if there is some in the show. There is a fly down here now. That's gonna annoy me. I wish I was confident enough to go sleeveless. I even have well defined. Just do it, Tommy. Just do it. I don't have like muscles really anymore because I don't work out. I can't because of my back, but I just like these because they're convenient, right? Like I like to do walking outside, and they're just, they feel good. So yeah, I do it more because I just like I like the texture of this. I like the breathability, all that kind of stuff. Hot D season 3 definitely getting delayed to 2027. Yeah, we're gonna talk about House of the Dragon. Coming up the next segment when I'm done reading chat. But yeah, I think this has more to do with HBO as a company and House of the Dragon than it does Night of the Seven Kingdoms, in my opinion. I don't play GTA. I don't play video games for children. Is GTA for children? That's an interesting take. That is a very interesting take. I'd say more Fortnite. I play Fortnite. I'd say it's definitely for kids, but I don't know about GTA. It sucks because HBO used to be the channel, but now it's completely gone downhill and it's ruining all their other shows. Yeah, I feel like there's some foreshadowing to this issue, which we'll talk about here in a second. Has it actually been delayed? I'm out of the... Yes, it has been confirmed. It's not going to be this year. It will be next year. The rumors, and I believe what they stated with what JC said, is it's going to be in the early winter time of 2026. So it's going to be pushed back. Expectations, I think, were it was going to be September or October. Well, that was my expectation. So it's being pushed back about, at the most, 5 months. At the lowest, probably like 3 months. Hi, Sky Dragon. How are you? The CEO is known for being the worst. Yeah. HBO as a brand is kind of struggling. That's another part of it, Matt, that we're going to talk about, is the actor who plays Egg. I don't know exactly how old he is. I don't know that much about him, but you got to think, right? You have to film this show kind of, close together because Egg has to stay around the same age. So that's kind of an interesting issue. Mayhaps, Dakota, mayhaps. I haven't read Night of the Seven Kingdoms. There's not a lot of story for 6 episodes. Maybe recutting / adding material. That could be possible. The issue with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, this is another part of it we didn't even talk about. There's only 6 episodes. They've had a long time to film for 6 episodes. The story, in my opinion, me and JC have talked about this already. If you read this novella, the version I have, the first novella is less than 100. It's like around 100 pages, but with the pictures, it's less than 100 pages, really. So there's not a lot of story for an entire show, in my opinion. 6 episodes is a lot. All 6 of these episodes likely will be 50 minutes. How is that going to work? Because I think you could tell this story in an hour and a half movie. So I don't know. It's something we're gonna have to look at. It definitely could be something of maybe they're panicking. Maybe they're looking at what they have and they're going, okay, this is just, we need more. We need maybe to refilm some stuff, add in some more context because this isn't necessarily getting to where we want it to be. Thank you for the confirmation. The Dragon demands. So yeah, we do have a confirmation for winter 2026. Interesting. Very interesting. I wonder where that's going to be. That has to be then either March, February, or January. So we'll just have to see. Dragon Demands clarifies January or February. So yeah, it'll be in that early part of next year. I'm not trying to get political, but if your show is about 2 straight white guys being dudes, your project won't get greenlit. In a lot of ways, cramming that stuff in ruins shows. Here's what I'll say. I personally don't like politics in my shows, or modern politics in my shows, unless it's done in a good or creative way that's trying to tell something that makes your audience think, which I think Andor does really well, for instance. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. I won't make any speculations on it because we haven't seen it yet. Super Bowl and a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, a doubleheader. That will be really cool. That would be really cool. I bet they saw the reception of House of the Dragon and got spooked. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that here in a second. I think that House of the Dragon does have a role here. All right, so I'm going to kind of, this is more conspiratorial, right? I've kind of started with kind of the stuff we do know. Um, at this point now, so let's go back. House of the Dragon season 2 comes out. It was a bit disappointing, I would say, even for casual fans. For me, it was very disappointing, but I mean, for the general audience, not me, probably not people in chat. For the general public, the general audience, the people that make the money for HBO, season 2, I think, was viewed as a not disappointment, but maybe disappointing in terms of we're building up to this war. The war is not shown. It gets cut off. What we would have seen in episode 9, 10 would have probably been that war. It probably would have made the general audience like this season a lot more. So in a lot of ways, HBO helped sabotage season 2. Like season 2 has its issues in my opinion, and that's not necessarily on HBO, but HBO also made that, be a problem. So I think season 2, if you're HBO, you might be a bit worried because I think season 2 maybe didn't perform as best as it could have. You also look at A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is a very different story. It's not Game of Thrones. It's not House of the Dragon. It's the complete opposite. And I think one thing they might be trying to do, and this is why I don't think it's really on in terms of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms team being behind or any of those things. I don't think that's the case. I think it has more to do with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms being a project right now that HBO could be a bit worried about it being successful, that it's going to be more of a flop because it just doesn't have those normal things that people look at Game of Thrones and go, yes, that's what this show is. There's no dragons. That's the big thing, right? For most fans, it's not really a political drama. It's not one of these big arching stories about the whole continent. It's a very focused story. So HBO could be worried about that. They could be worried about, will this show do well enough? So maybe you push it into the year where House of the Dragon season 3 is going to come out. So maybe, because people in the House of the Dragon season 3 is starting to build up, maybe you push A Night of the Seven Kingdoms into there so that the hype of House of the Dragon helps A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And vice versa, right? Because if A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is really good, people are going to be really excited for House of the Dragon season 3. I think that's the positive way of looking at why it was pushed back, because it would really, maybe they're trying to help the show and help, House of the Dragon at the same time. That could be a possibility. Now, the next possibility is I would say it's the more negative one. I don't know which one of these I believe. I know I've talked about this with JC privately in Discord a little bit. We kind of, mentioned a little bit, but the other part of this could be, we've talked about how House of the Dragon has much more CGI. It's much more bigger, right? And in terms of season 2 to season 3, season 2, we had one kind of big battle. We had some other like payoffs and stuff, of course, but one real big battle. That's not going to be the case moving forward. And then the rest of the story is battle, 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 battle. Like we're going to have the Battle of the Gullet right off the bat with season 3. That's going to take a ton of post-production. That's a ton of filming. That's just a really huge project. You then have other battles that maybe we're going to see fully, maybe we're going to see partly of, maybe it'll be a Battle of the Whispering Wood situation. Either way, there is going to be a lot more time that needs to be spent on season 3, which is in a lot of reasons why I think we have the 2-year gaps. It's another big reason why I really do not think that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is behind. I think that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, based on the comments we've heard, is probably close to done at this point. But it's not out. So who knows? So I look at House of the Dragon season 3 and I can be going, maybe they're pushing back A Night of the Seven Kingdoms to give them some extra time for House of the Dragon season 3. Maybe this pushes House of the Dragon season 3 to 2027. Maybe they're behind on House of the Dragon, and this is kind of their way of mitigating that pushback, right? Because we've already seen the pushback of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and it's a smaller story. But you've seen the pushback of, HBO doesn't know what they're doing. A lot of targeting against them for a smaller show that just does not have the pull of House of the Dragon. If House of the Dragon gets pushed back, there will be more public outcry. Like and again, because HBO's already done it to themselves, because of them sabotaging their own show, they're going to get that negative like pushback if that's the case. So I think there's a lot of ways you can look at this. I think there's a lot of ways you can look at A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and you can go, There's a positive route, there's a negative route. And I saw that there was something else I wanted to get to. The Dragon Man says it's probably they delayed the show so it can be the flagship for the UK and German launch of the HBO Max streamer. So yeah, that's another aspect of it too. I kind of mentioned that earlier, like maybe it's to put it in a good bracket in terms of trying to get the peak viewership for the show. Maybe that involves pushing it back. I know there's other people that know more information on this. I know Quinn went over it in his stream yesterday. I don't know exactly what's coming out for HBO. I don't subscribe to HBO outside of for House of the Dragon, stuff like that. I just don't have HBO, so I don't watch a lot of their main shows. I don't really watch TV in general that much, but it could be for that aspect as well. So I think there's three main ideas of why it got pushed back. I think there's like the positive one. There's like just a neutral one, which the neutral one I think for me is just like they pushed it back for what the Dragon Demand says. You push it back to try and get it in its best possible time slot. And then you have the negative one, which is House of the Dragons getting pushed back. So you push back a Night of the Seven Kingdoms to mitigate that and all that stuff. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. By the way, yes, Andor is great. That is interesting. House of the Dragon season 2 might have scared them. Yeah, I think it's possible. Definitely think it's possible that they're worried about the new show. Because House of the Dragon season 3 won't physically be done until at least summer. Yeah, I just think there's a lot that's going into the show right now. I think that you're taking it from, again, a lot of season 2 was people having conversations, and there wasn't a lot of like warfare, right? Like stuff that's going to take a ton of time to do in post-production. Very like the polar opposite of a Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's the polar opposite, where House of the Dragon season 3 is going to take a lot more time in the post-production, a lot more CGI, a lot more stuff with the dragons, a lot more with, all the stuff that they do. Think of it just being a prelude of what we saw in the last season. It's like a fraction of the, I think, increase in terms of CGI, budget, all that kind of stuff. Just cancel House of the Dragon at this point. All I'll say on that one is that's never going to happen. It makes too much money. Regardless of my thoughts, maybe your thoughts, we are the hardcore fan base. We are not the majority. We are the minority. And as long as the show does well enough for casual fan base, the show will continue. And I hope that it gets better in season 3. I hope it pulls me back into it. I have my doubts on that, of course, and I've made that public, but I wish it the best. I hope for it to improve and for, it to like maybe prove me wrong on my own thoughts and things that I've, said on the show. I want it to be good because that is a positive thing that builds the community for, people on YouTube and interest in the shows. And that's going to let HBO make more shows, more movies, maybe make Aegon's Conquest show or, whatever they have planned. So again, I hope it does well. It's never me wanting the show to do bad. It's just I personally have kind of fallen out of love with it a little bit. Maybe second half of season 2 was the necessary boring part, and now we'll get more epic. I don't necessarily think the second half of season 2 is boring. I don't necessarily think that was the problem with the show. I think the problem of the show was it kind of felt like you were misled in terms of like not the pacing necessarily, but you think about the way we end season 1. The end of season 1, it feels like this is what broke, this is what happened, this is how the war starts. There's no going back. And season 2 really focuses on trying to go back and that not being an option, right? So it feels like the ending shot where you have Rhaenyra and her face there, and that we're going to war now, right? We're not playing around anymore. This is going to break into chaos. And you really don't see that happen until like midway through the season. And then the show kind of takes a halt again, and it builds up to going to war when we've only seen like one battle. Like we see kind of the end stuff with Kristen Cole and the battles we know he fought, but like the war doesn't feel like it's taking shape yet. It feels like we have a couple minor skirmishes, and then you have the rainy stuff, of course, but it doesn't feel like we're at war yet, right? Like whereas in Game of Thrones, where it feels like, okay, you've got Renly and Stannis and their stuff. You've got Rob and Tywin in the Riverlands, and you've got the Greyjoys planning their stuff. Like, House of the Dragon season 2 didn't really go to where I think a lot of people had expected it would. And so I think it's a lot of expectations. I think it was, some of it was, I think the decisions that they made in the latter parts of season 2, and then also just the conclusion for season 2, they just did not have what they were hoping to have with the Battle of the Gullet being the thing that ends the show on a really positive note for season 2. It just didn't have that. It had a really lackluster end with us just kind of repeating, we're building back up to war. So that's why I say, like, I think HBO sabotage is definitely part of why season 2 was not received as well. But I think that it's not the only factor. I think people like to focus on just the HBO sabotage of that season. It's more than that. It's a part of it, but it's more than that. Also, thank you, Dakota, for the like plugs. We love to see that. I kind of yapped for a while, so I've kind of gotten behind on chat, guys, like I usually do, because I have these little yap sessions. Dunk and Egg being delayed won't get a boost from being closer to House of the Dragons 3. You will only get a boost following another show, not preceding it. So I would agree with you, but I think the logic at HBO could be, okay, let's put Dunk and Egg closer to House of the Dragon Season 3, or House of the Dragon Season 3 to remind people of the Song of Ice and Fire, to make them want to watch Dunk and Egg. That is kind of what I'm saying. I'm not, like, if I was HBO, or not HBO, if I'm trying to understand HBO, that's something that I could see happening. The Dragon Demands, again, that definitely could be a possibility. I just don't know enough about HBO Max and what they're doing as a company. So I will take your word for it, though. I think that definitely is a good possibility of what they're trying to, like, save it for. I just don't think that HBO loves this IP anymore. It's not like during the Game of Thrones days when you had less book fans. You can't get away with huge changes of canon anymore. I think that Game of Thrones made, I think, people a little bit more on edge about book changes or changes in general. Like, for me, it's not like that way because I was still very young when Game of Thrones was coming out, and by the time it finished, I think I was like 19, maybe 18. Like, I was around that. I was around like teen years, right? So I can't really speak on that, but, like, for instance, somebody like Ricky, right? Ricky was very much covering Game of Thrones at, its peaks and all that stuff. And he's somebody that felt that and he went through it. And so now when you have stuff like House of the Dragon and United Seven Kingdoms, you're much more on edge that those shows are not going to be done well. And there's just a lack of trust. There's a lack of trust for, I think, a lot of book fans with HBO and their handling of this material. The service is not what it used to be. Succession is over. White Lotus season 3 was all right, and The Last of Us season 2 is getting obliterated right now. Yeah, I haven't watched any of those, so I don't really know. But yeah. I'm unconcerned. All this fear mongering. I mean, my issue though with saying, like, it's fear mongering is that there are legitimate concerns. Like, we've seen HBO sabotage their own shows already. So I think being distrustful, like a healthy distrustful of HBO, is a good thing. Like, now I'm not saying you should be fully on, like, HBO is ruining everything, it's terrible, but I think it's good to have a bit of concern and also taking the other information that you're being given, like what you're saying, suggesting in the comments, right? And saying, okay, this could be this could be what's happening, but there's also a part of you that could be going, well, this is also what could be happening, right? So we're not in HBO's boardrooms. We don't know what's going on. So that's what I would say. I think HBO marketing say to pick a side when they pick the black side in the war is wrong, plus make the show about two characters who really don't do much in the war is wrong. So we've talked about this. I don't really want to talk about too much about House of the Dragon, but I think, for one, they did great job marketing House of the Dragon season 2. Their marketing was fantastic for the show. I I think that yes, you could do it where you focus on Rhaenyra and Alicent. Me and Ricky talked about this in our show this week. Uh, but I don't think it was executed well. I don't think the execution was there. I think they definitely could have done it if they had just changed up, I think, the way that they went about Alicent and Rhaenyra's dynamic. But I just think that it was just executed kind of poorly to me. Um, I'm tough on House of the Dragon season 2, but I felt we should have been deep into war in season 2. I think that there was a feeling that we should have been further into the story than we were. And I think the reason I think most people think about this is because a lot of the second half of season 2, we have Alicent kind of just not doing much. Like, she's going to a random lake, and we get the point of it is, okay, she's reflecting on her actions, the things that are happening, her losing control, all that stuff. But it lingers on things like that too long, right? We have too much of a focus on Alicent and those kind of things, and we keep talking about this war that's happening, but it's not happening, right? Daemon, as much as I love Daemon's arc, I really think he is the strong point of season 2 until episode 8. And I think there's some things in episode 7 I wasn't a fan of either, but it's like, okay, we're kind of like stretching it feels like almost at times. I don't know. Also, hi Ashley, how are you? Also, I would highly recommend Andor to anyone. I've been a huge Star Wars critic. I hate the direction that Star Wars has been in for the most part, but Andor season 2, Andor season 1, like, it is some of the best Star Wars content since the prequels. And I think most people will have it above the prequels in terms of quality. And for me, personal bias, personal love of the prequels, I have it higher than Andor season 1 and 2. But I mean, Andor season 1 and 2 are the first time I felt anything like positive, like real emotion, like attachment to characters since Rogue One. So I would really highly recommend anyone to check out that series. To be honest, I'd rather House of the Dragon is filmed than it not be filmed, to be honest. I'm a visual learner, so I do like seeing adaptations. Yeah, I want House of the Dragon to continue. I just hope that it starts to build, right? And it starts to build up, and it starts to, I don't know, like, just get better in terms of writing characters and things like that. How could they possibly fix Alicent or Daemon in season 3? They are irreversibly ruined. I agree. That is why I say if I'm gonna find it very hard to get back into House of the Dragon. I'm going to cover it live stream wise, of course, but in terms of the characters, I'm just not attached to the characters anymore. They just don't function as characters to me anymore. They're too conflicting with things they've done in the past and where their characters are going. I don't know how that could be fixed. Maybe it can be. I just don't know. But right now, there's just, out of the main characters, I don't care about most of them. Outside of Aegon, like, I just don't care about the main characters, which is just unfortunate. That's just me. Like, I'm glad if you bought into their arcs in season 2. It's not for me. Season 2 wouldn't have been so bad if they cut or didn't cut episodes 9 and 10. It probably would have been mid, but still, yeah. So, Crab, this is how I look at it. I think if episode 9 and 10 had been in this last season and they'd been good, of course, you have to remember, they have to be good. We don't know if they would have been good because we haven't seen what they're going to do with it until season 3. But assuming they're good, which I think they will be, I think the Battle of the Gullet will do a lot to bring back people to their excitement levels, all that stuff, because House of the Dragon does handle the battles usually pretty well. The problems I have with House of the Dragon are usually more character driven. It's because that's the part of shows and movies I really enjoy, is more of the character centric stuff. But given what we saw in House of the Dragon season 2, I think they're going to do the Battle of the Gullet really well. So I do think that, yes, I think for the casual audience and maybe even for book fans, whatever, I think if we had gotten a good Battle of the Gullet into episode 9 and 10, I think the season would have been better. Like, people would have looked at it a lot better. People would have been a lot more excited for season 3, but because of the way it ended, it didn't build up that hype. It didn't get you really psyched for the next season, right? Like, season 1 ends on let's go. This is going to be awesome for next season. Huge, big cliffhanger with Luke's death and then seeing Rhaenyra's react to it. Great, strong finish to the season. Even though I don't think episode 10 is like the best episode of season 1, I think it does a great job of getting you excited for the next season. Also, I got to stop hitting the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms book. I keep like hitting it on my downswing. I am so far behind in chat. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying my best. We got Dakota Simpin in chat. Okay, all right. Matt, I have no idea why Vhagar was being kept outside of the city during a war. I have no answer to that. Casuals didn't like House of the Dragon Season 2 because of the lack of battles. Us hardcores didn't like it because of character assassination. Yeah, like they just didn't please anybody. House of the Dragon Season 2 pleased nobody. Like, I have yet to really hear somebody say they loved Season 2. Not like I've heard people say, I liked Season 2, but I, wish they had done this, or I wish that this had been done, or I was a bit disappointed by that. Like, I've never heard somebody be like, I loved Season 2. Like the people in my family that watch House of the Dragon, they all loved Season 1. Even though I have flaws, I think there's flaws in Season 1. The people that are, like around me, they're like, yeah, they loved season 1. Season 2 was not that. Like, there was more like, maybe could have done this better, that's just how I feel like the general audience is. I think for the general audience, most of them probably liked it, but were expecting more. I agree, Violet, though. I agree on your statements. Well, Dakota, here's the thing. I read it. I did not actually speak it. I saw it. I appreciate it. I just didn't say it. See, that's my point. The Dragon demands, like, HBO seems to be run by idiots. That's where my distrust is at in terms of them. Would be hilarious if both shows flop and no one. I really hope that's not the case, because if that is the case, if A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms flops, it's a bad show, you will be seeing the voice of Old Town have a mental breakdown. I promise. I will be there. It'll be, we'll see it. What you guys saw of me at the end of House of the Dragon Season 2 will be for Knight of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1 for Ricky. So hopefully that is not the case. I really hope. Duncan Egg is great. They have great source material. I even though we haven't seen any trailers, even though, like, I've heard good things about it, I'm just worried about how it's going to do in terms of the casual fan base. Book changes aren't bad, but honestly, it's a safer choice to just follow the books. Again, I think that changes are needed when you adapt something. They just are, right? But at the same time, if you're changing things that don't need to be changed, or you change something from the book that worked really well in the book and could have worked in the show, and you change it to something that doesn't make sense, or is less, or it's worse than what the book was, that's when you get your pushback, right? So, like for instance, a lot of people were up in arms about, the blood and cheese stuff in Season 2. And a lot of that was because the expectation was just much higher, right? What happens in the book, there's a lot more tension to it, the way it's described, and even George R. R. Martin, like, he talked about it as well. It just wasn't done as well. Even though I think that blood and cheese is fine in the show, I think that it's not one of the terrible moments of Season 2, like some of the stuff I've talked about on this channel. It's just, it wasn't what I think book fans expected. It wasn't as good as it could have been, and that's where some of the frustration kind of comes from. I think one of the most glaring inconsistencies from House of the Dragon is pointedly having Rhaenyra close Season 1 on the warpath, then she opens Season 2 by speaking only the phrase, "I want Aemon Targaryen." Yeah, and I love Emma Darcy's performance of the character, but I do find it jarring that we skip from the moment Season 1 ends to, like, afterwards, because it hurt the story in a couple ways. Like, one, we should have seen more of Aemond and the reaction of him coming back to King's Landing. That is a crucial plot point, in my opinion. We just didn't see that. Rhaenyra, a lot of her, like, it's hard to follow in terms of where we start. We end at Season 1 and where we start. It just feels like a disconnected part of the show. I don't know, but I agree with you. I agree. Again, I don't think it's one of the worst parts of the show. I think it's a part of it that's fine. I think that Emma Darcy's acting drastically helps that portion of the story because I don't think that it was the best choice for the Open, but Emma Darcy just knocks that out of the park, which is true for all of the actors of House of the Dragon. They do a fantastic job, and they do the best with what they're given. Thank you, Matthew, on the congratulations. Sorry I got to that too late. You're probably already out of the stream, but I appreciate you dropping in and for the kind words. Hi, Ghost, by the way. Hi, everybody in chat, if I haven't said hi to you already. That's true, Matt. Matt, that's true. Helena started as a pretty good character. Like, Ryan Condal and their team expanded the character and then just was like, let's just throw it away, in my opinion. I actually do dislike how much focus Alicent got. Like, what? So the problem, I don't have a problem with them focusing on Alicent. I have a problem of them focusing on Alicent when it's not relevant to the story. Like, when it just doesn't make sense for Alicent to be in the story. Like, I think Alicent could definitely be our main, like, POV besides Rhaenyra for being at things like, you know, council decisions and all this other different stuff, interacting with characters more, like Aemond, not just backloading that into kind of the end of the season. But they just didn't do that. They chose to make very jarring decisions with the character of Alicent, in my opinion. HBO proving once again they're run by imbeciles. Yes, and this is why I have this is why I'm just not confident in that HBO did something competent with the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's why I just have some issues with what happened here. And I mean, another thing is, like, they didn't really clarify why it was being pushed back. That's another thing that kind of pushes me the wrong way, but yeah. Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith says, "Do it," lives rent-free in my head, even 20 years later. The amount of prequel, like, memes that I retort on a daily basis is insane. It really is. Feeling emotions for Star Wars characters would be refreshing, yes. And it's crazier even this, because Andor is so different than every other show that Disney has tried to do. Disney has made all these shows outside of, like, Mando, about nostalgia, you know, the Kenobi show, the Boba Fett show, and it hasn't worked, right? And what's great about Andor is they take characters that we don't know. These are characters that are not in Star Wars up to the point of Andor, like, creating them, and it makes you feel something for these characters. You understand why the characters, you know, want what they want, or their motivations, or their flaws. They do that really well and makes you actually care about them. It reminds me a lot of, like, the early seasons of Game of Thrones in terms of how you build characters. So, yeah, I really, you know, want to sing their praises. I just hate that they took away the women's agency from the book and just made them all have a no war stance. They think it's feminist, but it actually does the opposite. I agree, Violet. I agree 100%. I've seen that take a lot of times by women, and I think that is a fair criticism. Also, sorry guys, if my voice starts, like, petering off. I recorded Catelyn 4 right before doing this live stream. I thought it was not going to take as long, and I just had some other stuff going today. But yeah, so 45 minutes of recording straight without breaks, and then here it's getting to my throat a little bit. I would argue Aegon was the strongest part of season 2, but I love the Dragon Seas plot as well. Yeah, I think Aegon by far was the best character of season 2. Like, I don't even think that there's a close gap. Like, it's Aegon who's in S tier, and then, like, there's, like, a steep drop off to, like, A. Maybe I'd put Otto in S as well. I know Otto isn't in the show that much in season 2, but when he's on screen, he takes over. So I would also probably have Otto, like, an Aegon, maybe an S, and then I would have, like, bit of a gap, and there would be some in A. And yeah, if you want to watch, I mean, I did a tier list for the characters for season 2, so if you want to go back and watch that, you can. The only way to view House of the Dragon is separating it from the book completely. Personally, I wish they followed the book, but I do have show only friends that loves it. Yeah, I think that's the only way to watch it, right? Like separating it from the book, because at this point, right, the show has nothing to do with the book. I think what's so frustrating about being a book fan is that the show was marketed around trying to follow the book. Ryan Condal being this huge fan of A Song of Ice and Fire, all that stuff. And it just doesn't seem to be the case. Like, it just does not seem to be the case that they're trying to follow Fire and Blood at all. I just mean, like, there's just things that just do not make sense in terms of if you're following the books and the book's canon. So yeah, I think you have to view it as its own thing. It's part of the show canon, like Game of Thrones, all that stuff, which that's kind of what I've kind of just come to realize. I mean, it's not really part of the book. I'm not going to be one of those people that like, well, then it was different in the book. I wasn't like that even when I reviewed season 2. I only did that to compare how it was done in the book better. Like things that don't make sense in the show's own continuity. Like Daemon's thing is not bad because it didn't happen in the books or wasn't foreshadowed in the books or all that stuff. It's that the Daemon stuff in the arc that it was building in the show itself does not make sense. So, yeah. I'm trying to get back to where I was, but I am really far behind. Also, guys, if you are just coming in the stream and you want to hear more of my thoughts on A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, I talked about it at the front half of the stream, kind of talking about a little bit of House of the Dragon, because unfortunately, talking about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and why it possibly got pushed back kind of drips into House of the Dragon, and so we're talking a little bit about that right now. This is, I can tell I'm so far behind, is just now I'm reading Dakota responding to him saying, you know, he was simping. But yeah. You continue your simping, Dakota, I guess. What do we think is worse? House of the Dragons. Oh, okay. Game of Thrones season 8 is way worse than House of the Dragon season 2. House of the Dragon season 2 has its good things about it. Some of the character work is great at times. There's good dialogue, you know, throughout. It's definitely better than season 8. It's better than season 7. I think the conversation begins in the season 6, season 5 realm. That's where I think the conversation begins with House of the Dragon season 2. To be honest, I don't think we give casuals a lot of credit. Not all of them were for epic battles and action scenes. My family are casuals, and even they said they didn't enjoy season 2 all that much. So, yes, I think that's true, but I think bulk majority of casuals are more about, okay, is this entertaining to watch in terms of action and things like that? But of course, there's going to be people that are more like, okay, the characters just didn't make sense this season, or I wasn't really feeling the characters this like, there's definitely gonna be people like that, but I think that I would say more generally people care a lot more about battles and entertainment and all that stuff. But I do think D&D understood Martin's work more than Ryan Condal. It's a tough one because I think that D&D took on the project of Game of Thrones because of the Red Wedding. And so to build up to the Red Wedding, how the book does it, you have to at least somewhat follow the books. And so for the first, few seasons, they do that relatively well. There are things they don't do well in terms of adapting. Stannis' plotline, for the most part, is really not good in the earlier seasons at all. So I don't know, because you have this weird situation where D&D had the source material word for word right there for you. Fire and Blood is not that. So it is harder to adapt Fire and Blood just because of that. So it's tough. Like, it's tough to say that. Do I prefer D&D over Ryan Condal? Yes. D&D gave us 4 of the greatest seasons of television ever. House of the Dragon gave us 1 pretty good season. Pretty good, right? I'd give it probably a high, 8 score or a 9. And then season 2, not so much. So I know it's harder work for Ryan Condal. I get it. And the House of the Dragon team has a harder job than the Game of Thrones team does. But the Game of Thrones, they delivered for 4 seasons. So that's kind of how I look at it. Do you think adaptations are easier when you have an excess of material, Ice and Fire mainline, or just bare bones Fire and Blood? Ian, great question. Really matters on the quality of writers you have. Because if you have a bare bones, but maybe like a general outline of what the series is or what the show is going to be about, if you have very talented writers, that means they're not constrained to having to, fit into the book canon and not doing all these big changes that might anger fans. You're basically the author. You're basically making the story. So you have a lot of leeway. You have a lot of things you can do. So if you have great creative writers, all that kind of stuff, Andor, I hate that I keep going back to it, but Andor is basically that idea, right? You have a basic outline of the events that we know transpire, right? But you can fill anything into that story, right? You can put in, how the rebellion starts or how you think it starts, all this, whatever. That is great when you have fantastic writers, creative writers. But with that being said, having a ton of stuff that's already written for you for an average writer can really help them, because you don't have to make clever dialogue. You don't have to do all this clever stuff. You can here and there put in scenes that are new to the show canon and all of that. That's why I think that D&D are much more like average writers or average, producers, whatever you want to say. It's definitely harder for the House of the Dragon team because you need to be great writers. You are basically taking an outline of a story and putting it to screen. So great question, Ian, though. Great discussion point. I liked Batty Rhaenyra in season 1. Millie Alcock is the best. Also, hi, Kara. Hi, Kara. How are you? Ashley, what kind of workout did you do? What did you hit? You hit arms? What'd you hit, Ashley? I am also not a foot fetish enjoyer. I do find that quite weird. So Northern Tommy, I'm kind of on board with that. But I know people like that. So, What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? I don't think anybody cares about that. We don't need to know what happened. Let's be honest. Yeah. That's all I got to say. Also, happy, Ashley, you're being able to get back into working out and stuff like that. Happy for you. Hugh Hammer's arc is S tier. I'd probably put Hugh in an A tier. I think he's solid. But I don't know about S. Yeah, Gwen's another, I think, A character. Definitely a good surprise. Definitely a good character. I agree. Can you ever take an adaptation completely away from their source material? They're inevitably going to be tied forever. So the problem you do when you completely go from the source material is you will divide the fan base. Like, that's just what will happen. Now, I respect a company much more if they come out and tell their audience, this is not going to be based on the source material. This is going to be our interpretation. This is going to be our own story. I respect that way more than what companies do tell people, that this is going to be a faithful adaptation of X, Y, and Z, like video game or book or whatever. And it isn't, right? It's something completely different. Like, that's what I don't respect. I really respect companies if they'll be straight up and say, yeah, we're going to use the IP to tell our own story, our own thing. But I think that's a great point, Vi. Like, will you ever get away from that? Like the Percy Jackson movies, and famously bad for a number of reasons, they will always be tied to the canon of, like, the books, for instance, right? That's just how it is. Jace's new curls saved him. The actor that plays Jace is an attractive man. That's all I'll say. Jace is actually my favorite in House of the Dragon. Gulp. Jace is a good character. Gulp. That's all I'll say on that one. I do like Jace, though. I'm a big Jace fan. I like him, in the book and all that stuff. I made a statement that possibly he would make the best king if he was able to grow up and get more experience and all that stuff. But, yeah. This is my biggest thing, right, Xeno? And I think my expectations might have also hurt why I didn't like season 2 as much. The biggest thing I said coming into season 2 of House of the Dragon, you can go back, you can watch. You might not be able to watch my previews because some of them I had for members only. I did like a thing before the show started for members where I was doing like a preview for each character. One of the big things I talked about throughout a lot of those previews was we should now start to see Jace get more screen time and become his own character. And we saw bits and pieces of it. Like there were bits and pieces of it where they started to do that, right? Him going to the twins, right? Having his own initiative and things like that. But it just wasn't consistent. Like he would be a main character one episode, and then the next 2 episodes, he would barely have any screen time. That's the problem with focusing on a lot of characters like Rhaenyra and Alicent, right? You take away screen times from more minor characters that should be coming up as major characters. So I agree, though. I think Jace should have been a main character, especially given what we know is going to happen in the future of the dance. This was a huge building block season for his character, and they really didn't do much with him at this point. Where did Ashley go? Ashley is still here, Dakota. She literally commented right after you said something. Do you have high hopes of House of the Dragon House of the Dragons will cover post-war stuff? I don't expect House of the Dragon to go much further than the dance. I expect it to. I won't say for spoilers for people, but I don't expect it to go past the resolution. If you're a book fan, you know what the kind of the resolution is. But that's where I think they're going to end it. I don't expect them to go much further than the dance. And Condell and Hess are not great writers. Yep, unfortunately. Also, hi, April. How are you? Didn't Hess and or Condell say season 2 was supposed to be about the next generation of characters? Jace, Bela, Aemond, Rhaena, etc. Yet it was anything but. Why did they have to lie when they knew it? I don't remember exactly if they said that. I know that was my expectation. My expectation is the secondary characters would become the more main characters, and the main characters would start to fade to side characters. That never happened, as we can tell. So, yeah. If that is true, Ashley, that's the kind of stuff I hate, is lying to your audience. I felt Jace had the potential to be the best character. It's just he wasn't given much focus like I would want, and we had Alicent swinging for a whole scene. Agreed. I 100% agree with you, Xeno. D&D were not great writers with a few exceptions. Gott's best moments were ripped straight from the book. Even in the first 4 seasons, there's not good stuff in there. So the only counter I will say to that, JC, is I think there are moments of brilliance, especially season 1. Season 1, in my opinion, is the best adapted season of the television show. It's the best season where they took the best moments from book. They then put in their own scenes that helped complement everything in a nice tight bow for the most part. There is the one Littlefinger scene I'm not a fan of, but for the most part, they did a great job of adding. But I think as the seasons go on, you start to see that they kind of start to go away from the book more and more. Like Arya's journey in season 2 takes like the skeleton outline of what happens in the book and then just kind of puts some other stuff in there. Like they kind of strip down hers a little bit, and we don't really, you still like Arya in season 2, and I like some of the things they did with like her and Tywin, but it doesn't hit the same like themes, and it kind of misses the message of the Arya character. So you kind of see that, right? Like the show starts to get further and further away, but it's still entertaining TV. You still have the big moments of the books. It's still great television. It's just that you can see the shift away from the books the more and more the show goes on. And so when you get to season 5 and season 6, I think a lot of it was, well, one, they got to the Red Wedding. They got to what they wanted to do. They covered the after effects of the Red Wedding. I think they got lazy. They were rushing, and I think their egos were a bit large. They were making this show. They were, going away from the books each and every season. They probably got to the point where they were like, we don't need the books anymore. And so I hate, this is one of the worst things you can say in A Song of Ice and Fire to tell me you are a casual, is if you tell me Game of Thrones ran out of source material. You're a casual if you say that. Like, season 5 and season 6 are supposed to adapt Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, and they said, What are those? They pulled a Baylor the Blessed. Let's burn all the books type moment. But yeah. Dakota, women do like to do their leg day, so that's probably a good call. I agree, Kara. I agree on your sentiment on feet. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Full body routine. Hell yeah, Ashley. Good for you. Good for you. Quentin is alive. No, Finn. You came in here to just rile me up, didn't you? That's one of those comments where it's like, I want to see a reaction from Greece, and you're gonna get one. Quentin is dead. Stop living in the past. Let it go. Destroy it if you must. He's dead. Okay? He got burnt to a crisp. He's Quentin the Crispy now. Okay? He's reduced to atoms. Okay? Thanos snapped him. He's gone. He ain't coming back. But yeah, he's dead. I respect your opinions, Grease. Kind of, sort of. Just remember, everybody is open to have their own opinions, even if they're wrong. You're welcome. Yeah, it's not the best feeling, Ashley, not being able to do like the workouts you want to do and stuff. But we just keep moving. It's all you can do. Jace's whole plot in the Erie and North is so badly missed. Makes me sad that when the next time we see him, it's probably going to be that one event. Yes, and that fly, I swear. I don't know how he got down here. Like, he must have been, like, pulling some flying straight for the basement. But maybe it's the lights, because I do have lights down here that are pretty bright. So, Fly probably likes the lights. Yeah, Northern Tommy. I take for my back. I have like 2 medications I take. One of them is like I take it when I need to. Like if I'm having trouble sleeping because of it, it's kind of one where it relaxes your muscles and helps you go to sleep. But I have another one that I haven't really been taking, but I've kind of taken it again. But yeah. But I do think like April. Yes, you are right. I think like the technical aspects of House of the Dragon are fantastic. Dakota, if you're gonna become a football fan, who would you root for? Also, guys in chat, or not guys, like everybody in chat, what is your favorite NFL football team, and how do you feel like they're gonna do in the season next season? I hate it when people say they ran out of source material. Yes, yes. All I'm gonna say is when I used to do weights and stuff, I liked leg day. I never understood the hate for leg day. I know men love to complain about leg day. Leg day is great. I love leg day. Leg day was like my favorite day. The days I hated, ironically, shoulder and back day. Was not a fan. I liked arm day. I liked leg day. But yeah. Quentin is dead as hell. That's what we like to see. He's dead. That's what I like to see these takes. These are quality takes. Quality takes. Fly. I can hear you buzzing. You gotta piss off, or I'm gonna come back down here with the fly swatter. I just really like the name Quentin, man. Well, unfortunately, Quentin is one of the worst characters in the Song of Ice and Fire. So, you know, I mean, a good name on a not an interesting character, unfortunately. Why do people talk about Quentin so much? He's annoying. He's annoying. Nothing character to me. He deserved to burn baby. I wouldn't go that far, but you know, I'm glad he's not a POV anymore. So take that as you will. I like it though. Violet's going like full Visenya mode, and I like that. I like that. I like when people come in here and they got their fire. I can tell they got that fire. Like they're passionate. They're like, I like people when they're in Magor Visenya mode. Okay, Amy's mode is cool and all, right? Like this is Dakota's mo. Dakota comes in firing. He doesn't hold back. He's like Walder Frey, but a young Walder Frey, and he's just like, messy bed, Eric. What are you doing? Clean it up. I like that. I like the fire when people come in here. That's why the Targaryen banner's in the middle. I'm a college football guy, but Cowboys when Dak isn't. You sound like my dad. My dad hates Dak Prescott, like hates him. And I will say this: if you're a Cowboys fan, your team will never do well until Dak. A couple things: Dak Prescott is not your quarterback. Jerry Jones is not your owner and doing all the decisions. You will not win again. I promise. You will not win again. Dak Prescott is not clutch. He is Kirk Cousins, but not Kirk Cousins. Okay, like he's good in the regular season, can't win anything in the playoffs. He has no clutch at all. The Cowboys choke every time. But yeah, I like the rival team of whatever team you support, Greece, because I'm a nice guy. So you like so you like the Jets. So you like the Jets or the like Seahawks. Those would be your teams. Bears probably be terrible again. Well, Matthew, you did win fantasy football last year, so you got that to look forward to. We'll be doing that again this year, so I think the Bears will be good. I don't know about good, but like I think they'll be better this year. Like I think you'll actually see a team that's growing. Probably the Bills, a great team with bad management, kind of like my Braves. The Bills, I think the Bills. I want the Bills to actually win, but like they just choke every time. They choke every time. The Bills and the Ravens are like the same team. They just choke every single time. Greece was trying to get thick. No, it had nothing to do with that. I just like leg day. I just like the exercises. But with that being said, yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'm gonna give you guys a pause to think about that. Seriously, man, they delayed it and we still have no actual teaser trailer. Yeah, I would not expect a teaser trailer until probably the end of the summer now at this point. I would say maybe midsummer. But yeah, Hawk, I know you might have come in on the stream when we're not even talking about Night of the Seven Kingdoms anymore, but yeah, it's not looking good in terms of like A Song of Ice and Fire this year. Like this has been probably, in terms of me being in the community, this has been the worst year for A Song of Ice and Fire news. Winds of Winter not close at all. Like it's not coming anytime soon. The multiple times we've kind of been teased by George and then got nothing. Night of the Seven Kingdoms getting pushed back, and maybe there's something going on with HBO in there. We just don't really know at this point. The George R. R. Martin, Ryan Condal beef continuing. Like it's just not been a good year for Song of Ice and Fire creators and also just general community, I would say. Leg day was trash. Twerking trying to walk upstairs. Well, okay, my leg days weren't like that, but, ab days are hard for me. Ab day was like kind of in the middle for me, Brownie. Like, I didn't mind ab day, but it wasn't my favorite. I haven't read the last two books yet, to be fair, so I wouldn't know what he's like as a character. Finn, I feel like I missed something from you, but the last two books, I would definitely give them a good read. There's some great stuff in there. I think the main three are better than the last two, but I do think, there's a lot of stuff in there to like. Steelers, I'm depressed. Ashley, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it might be another 9-8 season, like Finn said. They're just one of those teams that unfortunately, this is what I think the Steelers need to do. I think the Steelers just need to have a horrible season. I think they need to have a terrible season. Like they have a Patriot season of last year. They need to rebuild. I love some of their players, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward. But the team just right now, they're good enough to be like a wild card team maybe. But they're not also bad enough to be like a picking early type team. So they're just stuck in limbo. They're stuck. They're the Jeff Fisher team. We're okay. Grease, where do I stand? Crab, I don't know. You look like, didn't I say what team you were going to be? Wait, the Cowboys. Yeah, I think the Cowboys will do like, I think they're going to be around like the Steelers, like 9-8. I think they'll be okay, maybe good enough to get a wild card, but I don't see them competing for the division. I think Washington and the Eagles are far more talented, far better coached, better rosters. So we'll see. But yeah, Dakota, the Steelers are not doing well. They are not doing well. They also just traded away George Pickens, which is probably a good thing. He kind of seemed like a major distraction, diva type player. But yeah, Dak is a 5 out of 10. We're married to. I mean, I would say Dak is a solid like 7 out of 10. Like he does the job in the regular season, but he just is not clutch. I'm going for the Bengals stack again in fantasy, Eric. That's fine. That's fine. As long as you don't pick any of my players. If you don't pick any of my players, we'll be okay. That's also one of my favorite things to do. I love doing fantasy like mock drafts. I just like doing them. I just like seeing what teams I make. It's just cool. I just like doing them. But yeah, Matthew, I mean, going with Bengals players, never a bad strat. I will say, okay, the hardest problem about being in the Bengals stack this year is they're much higher valued this year. So you actually getting all of them will be pretty tough. And also Jamar Chase is the number 1 pick. If he's not, then you're just crazy. So Matthew, I hope you have the number 1 pick. Yeah, I used to actually like playing sports more than watching them. Like soccer, I really liked playing soccer when I was younger. Like not like actually on a team or anything, but like just playing around with the friends and stuff. I actually really liked playing soccer, but you know. Falcons, I think they'll be pretty solid this year. I think they'll compete for a wild card, kind of like they did last year. I think they'll both be solid. Eggs Actor is going to be old enough to be king by season 3. That is true. Washington is going to be the team to beat this year. I agree. I think they're going to be really good this year. I mean, like Violet, like I like it because it gives me content to do Violet, but I don't love that that's like happening. It's kind of how I'm saying it. George R. Martin has been very quiet lately. I think for a number of reasons. I think a Night of the Seven Kingdoms show would have been shit as well. Interesting, Honey Wine. Why do you think it was going to be shit? I personally had high expectations for it. I thought it was going to be good, given the source material, all that stuff, but we'll see. Shedeur Sanders had half of the talent of his dad. He would have been a first-round pick in this draft, from what I've been told. I mean, Shedeur Sanders is a quarterback in a bad draft class who seems to maybe have character issues. Teams are not going to spend a first-round draft pick if you're a good organization on a guy that is not a first-round talent player in general. In a normal draft class, especially a quarterback draft class, Shedeur Sanders would not have been a first-round pick. And he also has character issues. So that's why he fell. That's why he fell. But yeah. Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, but like Aaron Rodgers just doesn't seem to be the guy anymore. He seems to have fallen off a cliff. I mean, he had every excuse last year to do well, and he did not. So I don't take much stock in Aaron Rodgers anymore. Yeah, Kara, I think a lot of people are frustrated by the delay. You know, it's so frustrating because as an audience, we realize the show should be out. Like, it should be ready to go. Or at least very close to being ready to go because of 6 episodes, small scale show, filming's been done for a while now, not a lot of post-production, but you have that mixed with, there's been no marketing for the show at all. There's been nothing. I know people that like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, they had no clue when Night of the Seven Kingdoms was supposed to be coming out this year because there's been no marketing for it. It's almost been like the polar opposite of House of the Dragon Season 2. House of the Dragon Season 2's marketing was a 9 to 10 out of 10. Like, it was like pretty close to perfect. For Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it's been like a 0 out of 10. There's been nothing. It's been radio silence. Gonna play some vehicle sim. Well, have fun, Northern Tommy. Ashley, I do believe you are getting either Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. So take your pick. I would take my pick with Kirk Cousins that maybe, last year he was not fully healthy yet. This year, maybe you get Kirk Cousins at more of a healthy position. I like his upside more than Aaron Rodgers, even though Aaron Rodgers has much more of a clutch factor than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins can't win big games, but it'll be more enjoyable. I think the offense will be at least better. We're in the super drought when it comes to anything A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, there's just no news. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about with A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, yes, we can go through the stuff we've talked about forever to death, but there just isn't anything new. I just completely don't trust HBO to make a Song of Ice and Fire universe show at this point. Like, why do they keep disappointing? That's where I think most community's at, Violet. There's no trust there. I think Shedeur Sanders was the best QB in this class and disagree about the character issues alleged. I think the league colluded to humble him or used him to do so to his father. So, Ashley, I want to say that what I'm saying by character issues is what I think the league maybe is saying about him. That's what was reported. I don't know Shedeur Sanders personally. I didn't watch him play. I'm going off of people that know more information about it than I do. The thought process was, yes, he is definitely up there as being one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. I think most people had him at the very bare minimum, top 3. But it seemed to be things about his dad saying he's not going to any of these places. He's going to pull an Eli Manning. I think so. It was that, like you just talked about, your humbling or whatever. I think that teams maybe thought he had a character issue, maybe too much of an ego, whatever, which I don't know. I've seen him in the Cleveland training camp every once in a while on like ESPN or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe he got humbled from being drafted in the 5th round. I don't know. And I just think you got to remember, being like Cam Ward would be like the 4th best quarterback in any other draft. So put that into perspective. Like, we go back to last year's draft. Cam Ward would not have been the 1st round pick. Like, most people think, like, for him as a 1st pick, he's probably one of the lowest, like, talent first picks ever. Like, that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, this is a historically bad quarterback class, from what I've been told. Haven't been to a stream in a while. Like the new setup. Thank you very much. I don't really love like streaming. The problem with streaming is the quality's just worse. Like my camera, because when I normally record for videos, it's not plugged into my computer. It's just my camera, and then I take the card out of the camera, put it into my computer, and then I'll do an audio check to make sure the audio's in sync and all that. But when I plug it into my computer, the camera only does a certain amount of quality, so I don't love the quality it has when I'm streaming, but that's fine. Like I don't stream enough for it to really matter that much, but yeah. But thank you. I appreciate it. By Dakota, thank you for stopping in this stream and for flirting with Ashley, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to end the stream. There's not a lot much more to talk about in Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I kind of talked about it all in the first half of the stream, or at least the first 15, 20 minutes. And then we kind of talked about House of the Dragon for a while, which is, it kind of always loops back to that because that is the last big talking point really that we've had in the community. But I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.